Yo,
Yo,
what's up?
what's
It's gonna be a long podcast if that's how we're starting it. Just
yeah,
absolutely on the same page. Um,
reading each other's mind. It just
yep,
is what it is.
yep. I think we're both going a little crazy with life and with work. So I think we're both
Yeah,
losing our mind, and we've started drinking, which is
the
it's a
way to
great
do it.
combo. It is a great combo. Um, Welcome back. We're back with another episode of the Assemblage Beverage podcast. It is episode 49, one more to the big 50. And today we're talking about when you step off the path, you're then on the beaten path or off the beaten path. Um, I don't know where I was going with that, but we're talking about some things that are not necessarily found on every bar, not necessarily found in every home bar, and some that we really enjoy, with some honorable mentions. And then we're going to kind of dive into some random stuff that maybe people like and most people probably don't like. But before we get into all that, we've got a sponsorship, and it's Assemblage. You already guessed it. Today we're talking about our TikTok. Go find us at TikTok at Assemblage Bevco, posting videos of the podcast. Just posted a video of us making lasagna bolognese with some wine pairing advice, all that good stuff. Again, download not TikTok. Download
Tic
TikTok
Tac,
and
fresh in your breath.
yeah, yeah. Some of y'all need a Tic Tac, but and follow us at Assemblage Bevco on TikTok. Also, you can find us same name on Instagram and Facebook. So go follow us, all that good stuff. And now, Mason, we're going to talk about some things that are off the beaten path as far as beverage goes.
Yeah,
So we're going into some uncharted waters. So you want to
yeah,
talk about one of your favorites?
yeah. So, one of the uncharted waters that we are going to talk about is a spirit or liqueur. I would say is maybe not as well known. Used to be, which used to be a big one apparently, and has just fallen off the map and then came right back, or starting to, and that is but about a rhubarb liqueur. Now, most people don't know that rhubarb liqueur was a big deal in the Prohibition era and pre-Prohibition era. Being the rhubarb fizz is one of the main cocktails used for this, which is gin, rhubarb syrup, and soda water. So super simple, not this specific liqueur, but has come a very long way in time and in the era. Um, Rhubarb liqueur is made like limoncello. So basically, a straight vodka, you could say, and then sugar and rhubarb macerated together, and then strained right off after sitting together to extract all the flavors and color. Which this one is a very light color, as you can see.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it could be that darker reddish color, um, and it's just something I think is something special because it's something different and it's sweet. And most people, I don't know about you, but most people probably would not have this on their back bar. I'm one of those weird guys that saw it and I was like, I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna see what's gonna do with it. And as you can see, I've made quite a few different cocktails from it.
Yeah, it is something that's interesting, and I don't think it's something that's overly crazy because, like you said, it is similar to limoncello, and I feel like rhubarb as an ingredient, especially in baked goods, is such a like popular thing, especially in like the spring, early summer with strawberry rhubarb pie and all that kind of
Mm,
stuff. And that would
I love
actually be really good. I wonder if you chopped up some fresh strawberries and infused it in the
that. Ooh,
rhubarb liqueur and then made like a strawberry rhubarb fizz. That'd be pretty
yeah,
that'd be pretty fire. I do have a
that
question for you, and I don't
yeah.
know if you've ever like have you ever tried it by yourself? or by itself, or have you always used it in cocktails? Like, I'm wondering, is it
Uh,
sour like rhubarb?
I have, but it's definitely been a while. So my glass is a little full. So I guess I'll do a quick.
Hell yeah. Absolute chaos.
Yeah. Yep. That's definitely a little. That's definitely a little sour. It's very delicious. It's making my mouth pucker.
Oof.
Uh, uh, it's super like aromatic in flavor, and it's got a lot of almost like tea sun kind of vibes to it. If that makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
and it just kind of rolls off the tongue. It's very sweet. It is very in your face sweet, and I'm still lingering on that palate there for a little bit. It's very delicious.
So it's like a sweet and sour type of deal.
Yeah, I think you could definitely go a lot of different ways with this liqueur. You could make a lot of different cocktails. I could think like rhubarb sour, rhubarb margarita, uh, uh, go rhubarb Aperol spritz, basically.
Mm,
I
that
don't
could be
know. There's
nice.
like, I think anything that's a clear cocktail or a clear syrup replacement would be honestly pretty fantastic with this specific bottle.
Yeah, and I feel like gin too, because I mean gin is very like aromatic, and it can probably take on like some of that like because it seems like it's probably pretty strong, like maybe not in flavor so to speak, but as far as like how much sweetness it has and the acidity, like I feel like a gin could do really well with it. I wonder how tequila would be with it.
I'm
Um,
sure. I'm sure it'd be fantastic. Like
yeah,
this is 80% proof, which is actually still pretty powerful for a liqueur. I feel like
yeah.
it's almost like literally like a gin, honestly.
So it's
And
40% alcohol.
yeah,
Wow. I mean, that's strong for a liqueur. I mean, I think, we'll see some other examples in a few minutes of some other liqueurs. I mean, it's basically like a limoncello, right? It's a rhubarb cello. So in that regard, like you said, it's vodka, sugar, and rhubarb is how you make it. So I mean, things like that are going to be naturally be stronger versus like say an Aperol, which is 11% alcohol. Some of these other ones are like under 20, and they're meant more for like the flavor and almost in some cases like a sugar substitute, and not
yeah,
necessarily like because at that point like that's the star of the show as far as like high ABV. Like you're not, when you add like a Negroni for example, you have your gin, which is your base spirit, and then you're adding vermouth and Campari, which are both lower in alcohol, and that's it. It's pure. It's you know the three ingredients are all alcohol, so you need something that's going to lower that ABV down. Whereas if you were to do like something with that rhubarb liqueur, you're not bringing down the alcohol at all.
yeah.
So it is a very
Honestly,
aggressive thing.
that Negroni replace the gin with that rhubarb. I think it would be pretty fire. Like
Ooh, that
it
would be
would
good.
it would definitely throw the flavors in a different direction that would be wild, to be honest. Like,
Yeah, that'd be crazy. You'll have to try that out.
yeah, definitely after this podcast, I may have to go make myself another cocktail. We'll see.
Yeah, and kind of
I
getting
also
away
have to be
from.
up early.
Yeah, I know, I do too. So I'm like,
Uh,
I'm gonna do one and done tonight because I gotta get up early. But getting away from the sweet and sour, let's go to the spicy stuff. And
I've got me some spice.
you've got some stuff on your back bar that definitely brings the heat to cocktails. And what is that, Mason?
Yeah, so I think a big, well-known company, really delicious style of liqueur is the Ancho Reyes brand liqueurs, and we've got the poblano and the chili liqueur. Both give you a very different vibe in how you're drinking it, and super delicious, super versatile for sure. Ancho Reyes started in 1927 in Puebla, Mexico, and it's just like a super unique style of making a liqueur because of it being spicy and sweet, which you don't really. I don't know if I can think of too many things that are both spicy and sweet. Hot like a liqueur, like hot like alcohol, but not spicy and like how I'm burning my mouth kind of flavor.
Right.
No, I'm not gonna pull a shot of these, Adam. That is not gonna happen today.
Damn it.
But another time, maybe. These ones definitely I have replaced actually twice now, which is great. I haven't done a whole lot with these bottles since I've moved here to Charlotte, but uh, I don't know. They're a lot of fun. Like tonight, I made a poblano jalapeno spicy margarita, and
Mm.
I think this right here just added a lot of like base flavors. Like if I were to just like take off the top here, smell. It's like, have you ever cut open a fresh bolano
Hmm.
and then roasted it on both sides there and get like that charred kind of flavor?
That's what you
That's what
get.
that is.
Wow.
That's what that is right there. And that I think is just absolutely beautiful.
So with your spicy margarita, how'd you make it tonight? So I know you added the ancho reyes, but what else did you add to it to finish out that cocktail?
Yeah, so I did an ounce of the enchiladas. I did half ounce of tequila. I did a half ounce of Grand Marnier, and then I did uh, basically like a 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice and half an ounce of mandarin orange juice.
Mm.
And shake that really, really hard, super duper hard for 30, 40 seconds, and then strain. I like glass strain where you do the two. You just kind of block the ice from getting into the cup over a jalapeno so that the spice of the jalapeno kind of marinated into the glass and then topped it with whatever ice you needed to fill it to the top of the glass.
Nice.
And it was simple. And honestly, like it had a little kick right here in the back, but not very much. It was just like a warming effect all the way through,
Hmm.
which I really, really appreciated because I was like, I'm not a big fan of like super spicy cocktails, but I am a fan of like a very balanced cocktail, especially if it has a nice kick to it, you know?
Yeah, and I agree with you. I'm the same way. Like I'm not usually a spicy margarita fan just because, to me it's just not my cup of tea. Like I love spicy food, but and I it's like that and smoke. I'm weird about, right? Like I love barbecue and I love smoked foods, but I don't love smoky drinks. It's the same thing. I love spicy food, but I don't love spicy drinks. And I think it's mainly because I like eating spicy foods. So then it's like you get no relief, right? If you're eating a spicy food and then you're drinking a spicy drink, like it's too much spice and it's too much flavor going on. It's like it's
Yeah.
overwhelming.
I think it really
Um,
kills the palate sometimes.
yeah, and I think sometimes too with spicy cocktails, and I think the nice thing about the ancho reyes is, like you said, it adds depth, it adds balance, and I think that's one thing that's always been missing from when I've had spicy, like a spicy margarita or, you know, uh, spicy paloma or ranch water, or, one of those cocktails is like it's just tequila, jalapeno, and citrus, basically. And there's not like that round note. Because Ancho Reyes, yeah, it's spicy, but it's also sweet, but it also has good flavor. And kind of has like this mellowness to it that kind of rounds, like it's got like a little bit of viscosity to it. So it helps to kind of like make that cocktail perfectly balanced. Um,
Definitely.
and it's something that I don't have that often. um, but it's something that I think could be beneficial to not only like a spicy margarita, but to just add balance to really like anything that you just want a slight heat to. Um, so
Definitely.
something to keep in mind, and something that I think that more people, including myself, should have on their back bar. I definitely
Yeah.
want to give some like honorable mentions to things that we both have on our back bar that maybe aren't full blown topics, so to speak, but more so just some cool stuff that we've accumulated. Like I don't have that many bottles. Mason's got like an amazing collection of just random bottles that I'm like, why do you have that? It makes
Yeah.
good conversation. Like I'm jealous, but I'm like, God, like rhubarb liqueur, or, it's just like some random stuff that you have, and it's like I'm jealous because it allows you to create more.
Yeah.
Um, and it's something that I'm like, man, I wish I had that. But it's like whenever I go to the liquor store, it's like I'm just gonna buy another bottle of tequila or something. Like instead of adding depth, instead I have 8 tequilas and I have like nothing else. So I've got some stuff, but
Yeah.
honorable mentions: Palma, which is a pomegranate liqueur. And unlike the rhubarb liqueur, this is only 17% alcohol, so super super light. As you can tell, I haven't even opened it, so I think Olivia bought this and she was going to make something with it, but like obviously we never used it, so it's just a full bottle. And then another, whenever I have interesting things, it's funny because it's always Olivia that wants them. Like she's like, "Oh, let's get this," and then like, but she really doesn't drink all that much. So like the cool things I have, they're like obviously unopened. Another interesting one. I'm not the biggest fan, but it's mainly just because I don't like lychee all that much. But a lychee liqueur, um, which
Definitely cool.
it smells just like a fresh lychee. I
Oof.
don't love it because it's got like a weird perfuminess to it.
Hmm.
Um, and like it almost smells like a rose perfume.
Hmm.
Um,
I
I
really
don't
want to
know. It's
make
just interesting.
like a like a slushy lychee margarita, soju margarita kind of
Mm,
action.
that could be good. Mason, what are some of your honorable mentions that you have, either by you or just in general, that are kind of like cool, interesting liqueurs?
Yeah, well, I've got a couple of amaros next to me that we're going to mention about in
Mm-hmm.
a few minutes, but um, you know, can't gotta give that shout out to Campari and Aperol, of course. Like fantastic liqueurs. Like I'm pretty sure Adam's got one next to him. Yeah, look at that. Look at that beautiful red Aperol spritz. Action Campari kind of gets you going. Um, I don't know. There's just a lot of different liqueurs out there. Contru, triple
Mm-hmm.
sec. You need those specific liqueurs to make your beautiful margaritas.
Have you
Um,
have you ever had aloe liqueur?
no, that sounds cool.
Very very interesting. It's got a strange, like I like the way aloe tastes. Like I used to go to this smoothie place all the time that they would always give you like a shot of like aloe. It was like not 100% aloe juice, but it was like aloe flavored tea, I guess you could call it. But they
Okay.
make an aloe liqueur, which is pretty cool. We used to have it at a place I worked, and we never did anything with it. It like sat at, I counted it every month for inventory, and it sat at like zero point 0.7 for the whole time I worked there. Um,
Uh,
so it's just like
dang.
such a random thing, but
Yeah, but you
there are
gotta
a
have
lot.
it.
Yeah, and you got to have it just in case there's like that one random person that's like, "Oh, I love, you know, brings me back to my younger days drinking aloe liqueur on the beach." There's like always that one fucking random person that's just like, "What the?
That's
Where'd you
why.
come from?"
That's why I was at point 0.7, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I know you mentioned
Uh,
you mentioned a couple. You mentioned Campari, you mentioned Aperol, um, and those to me are like the perfect way to start your day drinking. They're
what do
a
you mean
great.
by that?
Well, I mean, so some of them are, not all of them, but some of them are easy to drink. And the main thing, like, so I would consider Aperol as one of those things that's easy to drink. Like an Aperol
Oh
spritz,
yeah.
it goes down like water.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
on the other end of the spectrum, there's aperitifs that definitely call for a more, I hate to say a sophisticated palate because that's not true at all, but like you really have to be in the mood for it, or you really have to appreciate super bitter things or things that are very strongly flavored and kind of have like a bitter, like bitterness, and like they're just very intensely flavored. And the thing that I love about aperitifs too is, typically they're appetite stimulants. So it's like the perfect way to start your meal, right? Like instead of starting with a glass of champagne, start with a glass of Aperol spritz, or start with a Negroni instead of a glass of wine, and then move into wine with dinner. But
Boulevardier.
a Boulevardier, yeah, exactly. And I think like I said, they're very bitter, sometimes very herbal. I love amaros and aperitifs, but they're definitely not for everyone. I know I've professed my love for Fernet Branca in the past, um,
Yeah.
which is it's weird because it's technically an aperitif, but I always drank it as a digestif. So
Yeah.
maybe that's where I went wrong, is I should be starting with Fernet and not ending my night with Fernet, because that's usually when things go sideways, and things start going not so well.
But I
Um,
also think like Fernet is one of those few things that are like a lot of the aperitif digestives. They can kind of fit into both categories.
mhm, agreed.
And even though it may be the wrong move to end in Fernet, even though I don't think so. It also might be the right move to end in Fernet, which is the way you want to do it.
Yeah, because at least then you could enjoy like your whole night. Whereas if you start with Fernet and it's just a dumpster fire like from the beginning, that's also not great.
Exactly.
There's things like Chinar, which I have a hard time with. Chinar, for
I,
those of you who don't know, is a why am I blanking on what it is?
Artichoke.
Artichoke. Thank you. I was like, I can picture the artichoke on the bottle, and I'm like, what is that called?
Yeah.
It's an artichoke liqueur. Are you pro or against Chinar?
I am only pro. So I don't like Chinar as a by itself
Mm-hmm.
drink. I think it is a perfect mixer for anything. And I made some sort of drink back in school way back when, which is like 8 years ago now. If you Isn't that
Yeah.
crazy? 9 years ago now. Um, Back in school where it was like Chinar was a third, maybe a fourth of my cocktail, but it made almost like a sweet tea kind of esque kind of flavor because of the
Interesting.
weird off the beaten path flavor that Chinar gives you.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Interesting.
thought it was something special, but I don't know what else I would really do with Chinar besides a mixer, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think that's sometimes my hesitation with buying some of these like off the beaten path things or some of these Amaros, because, I don't necessarily know what I'd do with them. And I mean, of
Yeah,
course, there's Google and all that stuff, but like for me, if I'm going to spend 25-30 bucks on a bottle that's just going to sit there and I'm never like, I don't know what to do with it, or it's like, what am I going to do with 750 milliliters of Chinar for like, me to add a quarter ounce to something. Yeah, and
sits
but
on
I
your
feel
back bar,
like
right? It just like hangs out until you find some fun
and
cocktails
that's
to do with it.
and that's what it's all about, right? It's building that back bar and having some depth and being able to do some cool things.
Yeah,
It's just, there's so many like random liqueurs. Italy's famous for them, like making so many different aperitifs and digestifs out of literally everything.
yeah.
So some are I'm a big fan of, some of them I'm not. But one, another great aperitif is vermouth, which to me doesn't get like vermouth and sherry. I don't think they both get enough love,
I
because
agree.
people think they're for like their grandma that like sipped it on their porch and like I don't know, Martini and
In the little
Rossi, like,
snifter glass.
yeah, and there's so much more to it, and like it's something that I really learned to love in when I had our restaurant because we didn't have a full liquor license. So like my quote unquote liquor was vermouth and sherry. So one thing that I found when I was experimenting was, and I feel like I've talked about it on this podcast before, but I have a bottle now. It's lo-fi aperitifs gentian amaro. So
Mm-hmm.
you would use it in the same way that you'd use like an aperol or a Campari. So it's white wine. So it's basically like a fortified wine, and grape spirits infused with anise, cinchona bark, orange oil bitters, hibiscus, grapefruit, ginger, like a rose syrup, and gentian root. So kind of like a bitter, slightly sweet, very like it's very hibiscus and grapefruit forward. So it's very like perfumey, and it's really nice in a spritz. So like replacing this with the Aperol and an Aperol spritz is fantastic. I think I love Aperol, but I think that this gives your spritz a little bit more depth of flavor, and it's 17% alcohol, whereas the Aperol is 11%. So you get that little extra kick from the alcohol.
Ooh.
What are some of your favorite aperitifs, Mason?
Yeah. Of course, Campari, because, my Boulevardier makes me, and of course, sweet vermouth. You add those two. One of I think the one aperitif that I really love and hate at the same time is chartreuse. I have like a love hate relationship. Specifically, I'm a green chartreuse kind of guy myself. Um, because green and yellow are the two main ones. I'm sure if somebody makes a off the beaten path, whatever red or whatever, I don't know, I have no idea to be honest, but green and yellow. Um, but green chartreuse is just absolutely awesome and super flavorful and super delicious. I think as a great starter for anything, and but the one thing I just like hate it, right? When the fuck did it become so expensive?
And you can't find
Seven,
it.
yeah,
You
seventy
can't find it either.
dollars. $70 for a 750 milliliter for that model. What the fuck is happening? Like, it's just ridiculous. And then like you just said, nobody has it. Like you gotta
Yeah.
get lucky to find it, and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and I get, chartreuse is one of those things. So it's basically no one knows the recipe for chartreuse because they use like a crazy combination of like 70 different herbs and barks and spices and all sorts of stuff to make chartreuse what it is. And I mean, historically, there was like two or three people that knew the recipe, and everyone else, like, there was only three people. So historically, those three people and their Cicercian monks, I think, they're monks of some sort, and basically the people who knew the recipe weren't allowed to travel together, or they weren't allowed to like go places together, because if something happened to one of
One of
them,
them.
they basically wanted to have the other one to like still have the recipe and carry it on and share it with someone else. So kind of a weird thing, but like they're like if something happens to both of them, then like it's
It's
the
lost forever.
recipe's gone, right? Like we can't make it anymore.
That's pretty
Now,
interesting because like Coca Cola does the same thing. Like two, three people in the world know the recipe for Coca Cola, and they're not allowed to travel on the same anything together.
yeah, and I'm sure it's slightly different now because I mean they're probably making it more in like a not like a highly manufactured thing, but they've got to make it more, it's not just two people that know the recipe. I'm sure they've got a team who does. But like you said, chartreuse is kind of a good both, right? It can be an aperitif, it can be a digestif. And kind of the big difference is an aperitif kind of gets you started. It opens up your appetite to enjoy your meal or to enjoy your night. Whereas a digestif is basically like your last sip, your thing that's kind of going to close out your evening drinking. And typically they're made to help settle your stomach after a meal. So, with the different combinations of spices and barks and herbs and berries and stuff like that to make them, meant to kind of settle your stomach and get you ready to, go lay down or something. I don't know.
Or just keep going out with the night. Honestly, recommendation if you had a big meal and you're still going out afterwards and you want to slow down to speed back up, if you know what I mean. I highly recommend after the meal, right before you leave, having a digestive of some sort. Like Montenegro, like
Mm.
this. Amaro is fantastic, super sweet, but also super delicious. Um, and just like I feel like it really helps settle your stomach to just continue having fun later. Like again, I would give yourself a little time after you drink that before you start drinking again. Not much, 20, 30 minutes, but I think you're good to go.
Yeah, really let it settle your stomach and before you like, and I think
Start
that's
crashing into it.
yeah, and I think that's my problem is like, I blame Fournette for some of my, you know, I'll call them misfortunes. But it's mainly just because like it's not meant to be like whenever I drink Fernet, it's always after I've had beer, champagne, tequila, gin,
Everything under
this,
the sun.
that, espresso martini, and then I'm like, fuck, let's do Fernet, and then I'm like, I'm fucking trash, and it's too late, and then I'm like, oh, that Fernet really got to me. No, asshole, it was all the other 47 drinks you jammed down your throat before the Fernet, and the Fernet was just the straw that
Tipping
broke the
point.
camel's back, right? Like, so, and I
Uh,
think so that whole waiting a couple minutes after you have a digestive, because it is meant to be like sort of your last sip, and then for you to
yeah.
then go back and like drink an espresso martini or something right after is like, okay, of course things are going to go south because you're a delinquent. um
Uh,
and there are different things other than like liqueurs that can be digestives too. So like I think of, sherry again can be one of those before or after depending on the style of sherry. There's port, which is a great after dinner, like if you find a ruby port or an aged vintage port. Whereas like more of a white port, or I know they're making like a rosé port now, is great as an aperitif because it's a little bit lighter. You can make like a port spritz, which is famous a
Ooh.
lot in Portugal as like an aperitif. So,
Did you have a lot of those being over
well,
in Spain?
no, because I was in Spain.
They
Um,
didn't. They didn't like. They didn't like cross because they're so close.
No, I mean, so for those of you who don't know, I was just in Spain 2 weeks ago for 9 weeks, or not 9 weeks, 9 days. And I
A
wish it
week.
was
Yeah.
9 weeks. No, it was nine
That would
days.
be cool.
So yeah, I was in Spain and Switzerland. And no, I didn't drink any port while I was over there. What did I drink over there? A lot of wine. Um, and then we went to some really cool cocktail bars and I just like ordered some cool cocktails. But mostly wine. I don't know. I didn't drink like a whole lot while we were over there, which is kind of weird. Like less than I drink over here and I'm like, I'm on vacation and I drink less stuff. So I don't know. It was a
Yeah,
great trip
you have to
though.
be sober for it.
Yeah, yeah. And I was with people who like, I was basically the only one boozing. So I was like, okay, I gotta like simmer it down. Um, but that's all right. But yeah, I think, there's a lot of great digestives. I'm trying to think if I had any like crazy things while I was over there. I did
No
have one.
grappa,
No, I didn't
no
have any
brandy.
grappa. Mm-mm.
Damn.
I did have one thing that was pretty disgusting. It was I got it at like this little convenience store right like underneath our hotel, and it was God, I forget what it was called, but it was basically like a beer mixed with tequila, and it was like in like a beer bottle, like a glass beer bottle, and it was like an agave. agave. I don't even think it was tequila though. It was like an agave spirit mixed with like a beer. And I forgot, what
Okay.
did they call it? They called it like it had something like cerveza in it, but it was like a mixture of like a margarita and a cerveza in the name. Very disgusting. It was so gross. Um, and it's like made in Spain, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
like this is cool. Like I wonder if it's good. It's not good. Um, but yeah, that was kind of like the
It's like the
only.
skull vodka for Spain.
Yeah, but it was like only 6 or 7% alcohol, so it was like a strong beer. It wasn't like a spirit. It was more of a, and it tasted like if you were to add agave nectar to beer.
Mm,
But like I don't know, it was very
not in a good
strange.
way.
No, and I think it had some other flavor to it. I don't remember what it was, but it was not good. Um,
Uh,
Speaking of flavored things, we kind of want to round out the podcast with. Did you have any other digestif shout outs?
just because we kind of brushed over it, just like brandy and grappa and aquavit, I guess, are last little things. I don't really particularly have a lot of grappa. Let me rephrase that. I almost never have grappa. But if somebody puts a glass of grappa in front of me, I would be so excited to have it because I don't really see it very often ever. Now,
Yeah,
a brandy though, I've got a couple of those, and those I love me a good brandy. Well, I don't know, just a little VOS via VSOP. You know what I'm saying? Little something something, little
yep.
fruit flavor, little yum nums. I don't know what else you want to call it. All right, let's move on to the honorable mentions, flavor town. Here we go, kind of. You know what I'm saying? Welcome to Flavor Town, little Guy Fieri.
Flavor Town Vodka Edition. Yeah, we're talking about some flavored
Ugh.
vodkas. Um, we all know though that, and I'm not a gin fan, but the best flavored vodka is gin. But these are things that are not gin and are unfortunately on the shelf at a lot of stores, and unfortunately, a lot of people like them. I don't
Yeah.
know why, but I feel like if you drink these flavored vodkas, and like I'm not trying to throw shade to anyone, but like you're either in high school or you're like in your 50s and you're like, I'm gonna have an apple teeny, right? Like no one our age is ordering an apple teeny. Like very,
Yeah.
very few and
Yeah.
far between.
Yeah.
I'm not saying nobody, but like I feel like that is a very like older generation, or like, hey, I'm 17 and I got into the club and I don't know what to order, so I'm gonna order a UV blue and orange juice or something like that. Like, okay, really? Like, no. Um and I think some of the
Uh,
some of the flavors that I've seen, and I'm sure you have too, because I feel like not to say you're in the vodka aisle, but I feel like you spend more time in liquor stores and like looking around and trying to find new and interesting things. So I'm sure while you're milling around in the liquor store, you probably have gone into the vodka aisle before. And even if you don't like flavored vodka, the flavored
still look.
vodkas are right there with your Grey Goose or your Tito's or whatever it is. They're sitting right next to it. What are some
I
of
think it's
the,
always fun to like look at the flavors because they come out with so many different ones so often.
yeah.
It's ridiculous. Like I think there was, Harry Potter's chocolate bean covered frog flavor, one time. Oh gosh, no. But like they've got every flavor under the sun.
Mhm.
Specifically Smirnoff, they really cover everything. Absolute, they really cover everything. But honestly, like they're always like that like fake flavor of that
Mhm.
whatever it is. That like candied flavor, I guess is the best way to describe it, honestly.
Yeah, and I mean,
Um,
I feel like there are some, and not saying that they're good, but if I had to drink a flavored vodka, they do make like, grapefruit vodka or like a citrus vodka. Like I would rather drink something like that than like a whipped marshmallow vodka. Cuz
Yeah,
like
or a whipped cream vodka for your
yeah,
blowjob shot.
yeah, cuz it's just like
Uh,
what does marshmallow taste like, right? Like an untoasted marshmallow is like sugar. Same thing with whipped cream. I mean, it's basically like
I
cuz you're
get
not
hint of
getting any of
vanilla.
that like creamy texture to this vodka. You're just basically getting like vanilla and like sugar. Um, but yeah,
Very
I don't know. There's some
unflavored limoncello.
yeah, like an
uh,
unsweetened limoncello is lemon vodka. Yeah,
yeah.
and I mean there are
Oh,
like I know Grey Goose. Grey Goose came out with like a line of more. I don't know how to best describe it, but more like a luxury flavored vodka. So I know they came out with like a cucumber mint or a cucumber lime vodka, and like they came out with some more like higher end
quality.
stuff. And I think they labeled it as something like, oh, just add ice, and it's like it's a cocktail basically, but it's really just a flavored vodka that you chill down. It's probably more for like those people who drink martinis, aka 3 ounces
Vodka
of
up.
vodka shaken really hard and poured into a martini glass.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to throw shade. It's just like it's a different strokes for different folks, like everyone's got their own thing. My thing is not flavored vodka, but obviously there's enough people out there that drink it because not only do they have it, but they keep coming out with new fucking flavors, right?
Yeah.
And they just keep
Honestly,
getting more and more ridiculous.
I think vodka might be the number one spirit in the world. Maybe not. Maybe brand or bourbon or whiskey, but it might be up there as
Yeah.
pretty close to number one.
Yeah, I think it probably is still number one. I feel like tequila is getting up there too, is like, a super like popular spirit, but vodka I feel like will always be number
Up there
one or up there because of its
within the top five.
I mean, because it is a versatile spirit, right? You can pretty much add anything to it. I mean, it can be anything from like a martini, and then you run the gamut of, from shaken vodka poured into a martini glass to like your apple teeny or your grapefruit teeny or your espresso martini, or you can do like a dirty vodka martini, like, and then there's Cosmos, and like there's so many different things you can do with vodka. Moscow mules, like it's crazy. Whereas something like a bourbon or a tequila or some of these others, gin, there's only so many things you can do to it before it gets like, you can't add chocolate liqueur to gin and it would be good. Whereas you can add anything from chocolate liqueur to olive juice to everything in between to vodka, and it might not be good to you, but there's a place for it and it's good to someone. Whereas like I think we'd all agree that chocolate and gin probably wouldn't be very good.
I think we could figure out a way, but I don't know. I really don't think I could have it. Just because I want it. Now I want to try to make gin and chocolate be good somehow.
Yeah, and maybe it
But
is. Yeah, maybe it
I
is,
don't
but
know. That'd be really hard. That'd be really hard. That'd
yeah.
be really difficult to do. That juniper chocolate, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think
Nah,
so.
nah.
Yeah, and then I
All
would say
right.
there's like kind of like an offset category or like a subset of flavored vodka that I would consider like just random. What would you call them, Mason?
I'd say they're 21ers' favorite drink, and
Yeah,
that's the people that you know what
I would
it's
even say
the
under 21.
alcohol. It's the alcohol you honestly I was gonna say that too, but it's the alcohol that they make that they know that nobody of age actually wants to
Yeah,
drink.
and
It's
and
everybody else,
and by all
and you
means,
need to drink
Yeah, and by
responsibly. You need to
yeah,
drink. You need to be 21 to drink.
yeah, and by all means, we are saying that just because you are under 21 means you can drink. No, you still
No,
have to be 21 to drink these things. We're just saying if we had consumed alcohol before we were 21, which we didn't, we might have had these things because they don't. I'm gonna just stop there because they're less, maybe less expensive, or maybe easier to drink, or I don't know what it is, but to me it's like they're candy flavored liqueurs, right? They're like they're technically probably still flavored vodka, but they're
they might
like,
be liqueur. They might be just enough sugar in them to be that category.
yeah, but I feel like I've seen like Starburst liqueur before. I've seen like what are the Jelly Belly, the little jelly bean like flavored liqueurs before. They have cotton candy vodka, which I would still consider a candy liqueur. Because
Yeah,
again, what does cotton candy taste like?
sugar
Sugar?
and then whatever flavor, blue raspberry or
Yeah,
whatever fake flavor you want to add to it.
yeah, yeah.
And then
I
candy bar and
yeah,
candy apple and caramel and chocolate and I don't know what else.
yeah. And I think UV Blue, like, or UV as a brand, like they make all these random, like, quote unquote candy liqueurs, like candy bar, right? Like it's a chocolate caramel vodka basically, and I don't even want to know what that tastes like, and I don't want to know how you would feel the next morning after consuming that. It's just got
Probably
to
not
be
great.
it's got to be tough.
But
Probably not
you're
great.
21 and so you can recover pretty quickly, honestly.
Yeah. Us once you get like mid 20s, mid to late 20s, which now we're getting in that late 20s category, the amount of time it takes you to recover after a night of drinking, much longer.
Is
And
too long.
and it's kind of fucked up too, like the amount you have to drink to get there is smaller, and the amount of time it takes you to recover is longer. Whereas before you could party, you could do all this stuff, and then you could wake up the next morning like, oh, I've got a little headache, but it's going away. Now it's like we have a couple drinks, and you wake up the next morning, you're like, fuck, dude, like,
What did I
what did
do?
I do? My life's in shambles. And you'll definitely feel that way if you drink some of these flavored vodkas or these candy liqueurs.
Yeah.
Um, but Mason, I want to ask you our question of the day.
All
Um,
right.
and maybe you've already said it this cocktail, but it's not, or this cocktail, this podcast episode, Jesus. Um, what do you keep on your back bar that would surprise almost anybody? Maybe it's your like secret ingredient, or maybe it's just like that random bottle that you picked up from somewhere that is like your talking point. If someone's like, what's the coolest thing you have? What
Yeah.
would that be?
Well, I definitely put the coolest thing I have and something very delicious and interesting in two different categories because what is cool, whatever you
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
think, you know. But I think this rhubarb liqueur is something special that not very many people have, and I can't think of too many that really have something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if I were to think of anything else that is just something different, I also have a ginger cello on my back bar. So a ginger limoncello, basically, and it's very
Interesting.
ginger potent, and it's super super interesting because it's got a lot of like ginger spice in the back, which is very fun.
Interesting.
What about
Like,
yourself?
yeah, I mean, the depth of my back bar is not very deep. I've got Chinola, which is a passion fruit liqueur, which I think is really great in doing like passion fruit daiquiris or a passion fruit margarita. And it's very sweet, so you don't really need that much, but like the color it gives it is very nice. And then the other thing would probably be like this lo-fi aperitif, just because I have, some history with it, and I think that it's a really good product, and I think that more people need to know about it. It's made in California, in Napa, which is pretty cool. But their stuff is good, and they have different vermouths and different versions of this. This is just my personal favorite, and I think for me, it's always about the story about whatever you're drinking, right? Like that's why I drink that. Well, that's not why I drink, but that's one of the reasons that I justify my drinking is like I love the story, right? I love the experience. I love sharing these experiences. So like having something on your back bar that can be that talking point, or to like say, hey, let's try this out. Like, hey, what do you think we should do with this tonight if you're having like a cocktail party? So I think that's something that like we'd love to know. What do you have on your back bar that would surprise anybody? Or what should we, we're more so looking for suggestions on what to add to our back bar. Some
Definitely.
interesting things. So, but yeah, that's off the beaten path, Mason.
That is off the beaten path.
I feel
And
like
there are a
we've
lot more things we could cover, but that's
yeah,
just a couple.
yeah, and I think we veered off the beaten path, but I don't think we got lost.
No,
And
just
that's the
slightly
life.
stumbled, and
That's a life
we,
lesson. You can veer off the beaten path, but you can still know your way.
and you
Adam
can find
Shoemaker,
it.
2023. It's gonna be on my someone's
TikTok.
gonna remember that for me. Remember me for that one day. They're like,
Yeah.
who said that? Adam Shoemaker. Who the hell is that? But yeah, I think Mason, do you have anything else tonight? Should we
I
wrap it
only have
up?
one thing to say,
What's
and
that?
that's
Uh-oh. We lost Mason.
Oh, I lost the microphone. I unplugged it, and that was hilarious. I meant to go say, please go subscribe, smash that like, follow button.
Couldn't have said it any better or more dramatic myself. Fucking ripped the cord out of the mic. But I guess until next time, until episode 50, I'm Adam.
I'm Mason.
And keep
And keep
on
on
blending, baby.
blending.
Love you guys. Peace.